She said it with a crooked smile, like it was something amusing, like I was supposed to laugh along. I'm not cutting my ex out of my life for you. There was no irritation in her tone, no pause to consider how it might land, just certainty, the kind that comes from assuming the other person will stay no matter what's said. I didn't challenge her. I didn't ask her to explain. I didn't raise my voice or defend myself. I just met her eyes and nodded, the way you do when someone finally confirms a doubt you've been carrying quietly. My name is Daniel. I'm not someone who thrives on drama. I work in logistics management, where emotions don't fix problems and overreactions only make things worse. Issues get handled calmly, efficiently, and once a decision is made, it's carried through. I believed I brought that same approach into my relationship with Emily. We'd been together just shy of 2 years. She lived with me. We shared mornings, habits, groceries, future talk, or at least what I believed were shared plans. Emily had an ex named Ryan. He was never truly gone, always hovering in the background, always tied to some old friend circle, some shared history I was never part of. I never asked her to delete her past. I never demanded she block anyone. All I wanted was transparency, boundaries, something solid enough to make the relationship feel secure. Every time I tried to talk about it, she waved it away with an easy smile, telling me I was reading too much into nothing. That night we were in the kitchen. No shouting, no tension-filled argument, just a simple conversation. I told her I wasn't comfortable with how close she still was to him. She leaned back against the counter, folded her arms, and let that smile curl across her lips. That's when she said it. I'm not dropping my ex. Not for you. The words mattered, but the expression mattered more. That smirk told me she'd already compared my place in her life to his presence and decided I wasn't worth the exchange. What I felt wasn't anger or heartbreak. It was clarity. In my line of work, when someone shows you what they prioritize, you don't debate it. You reposition yourself. I told her I understood. That caught her off guard. She was waiting for pushback, maybe jealousy, maybe a long speech. Instead, I walked into the bedroom and began packing a small bag. She followed me, laughing under her breath, asking what I thought I was doing. I told her I was giving her space, real space, the kind where decisions actually matter. She rolled her eyes and accused me of being dramatic. I didn't bother correcting her. I left and checked into a quiet hotel across the city. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. By morning, my phone was full. Messages that started casual turned irritated, then edged into concern. I replied once. One sentence. I heard you clearly. For the first time since we'd met, Emily had no response. She hated silence. She fed on reactions, on knowing exactly where she stood in someone's mind. Not explaining myself unsettled her more than any argument ever had. By the second day, her messages shifted again. Fewer jabs, more questions. Where was I staying? When was I coming back? Was I really upset over this? I read everything and kept my replies brief, calm, and distant. I wasn't trying to teach her a lesson. I was watching. With distance came perspective. I noticed how often Ryan's name slipped into conversation. How quickly she defended him compared to how rarely she defended me. How she labeled him just a friend, yet never treated him like someone insignificant. It's hard to recognize patterns when you're standing inside them. Stepping back makes everything sharper. On the third day, I returned to the apartment while she was at work. Not to argue, not to create a scene. I packed methodically. Clothes, books, the quiet little things that make up a life. I left my keys on the counter. No letter, no goodbye speech. I wasn't searching for closure. I was choosing alignment. That evening she called. Her voice was tight, controlled. She asked if this was some kind of ultimatum. I told her, no. Ultimatums are for people who still hope the other person will pick them. I wasn't waiting to be chosen anymore. I had already made my decision. That's when she switched strategies. She accused me of being insecure. Said my ego was destroying something good. I let her talk. When she finished, I said, you're right. I'm not competing with someone who already has access to you. That's when her composure cracked. She backtracked, saying she didn't mean it the way it sounded, that Ryan wasn't important like that she just hated being controlled. I told her I'd never tried to control her. I'd only been honest about what I wouldn't tolerate. There's a difference people usually recognize only after consequences show up. I didn't block her. I didn't need to. I just stopped initiating contact. I redirected my focus. Went back to routines I'd neglected. Started hitting the gym early instead of staying up late, waiting on half-hearted replies. Friends commented on the change before I noticed it myself. I seemed lighter, sharper, less available. A week later, Emily sent me a photo. She was at a bar with Ryan, both smiling. The message read, "See? Nothing to worry about." I stared at it for a long moment. Then I archived the chat. Some messages answer questions you hadn't fully asked yet. By the second week, everything had shifted. I stopped checking my phone constantly. I stopped wondering where I stood with her. I started paying attention to myself. When I returned fully to my apartment, it felt different. Quieter, less heavy. I spent evenings reading books I'd abandoned, working on delayed projects, reconnecting with friends who had slowly faded while I'd been stuck navigating. Emily's mixed signals. One evening, she showed up unannounced at my building. I was in the lobby with grocery bags when I saw her. She hesitated. The smirk was gone. Confidence replaced by uncertainty. "Daniel, can we talk?" she asked softly. I paused, nodded slightly, but didn't step closer. That pause said everything. She had expected desperation, explanations, emotion. What she saw instead was distance. She tried to explain herself. Said she didn't understand why I'd pulled away, why I'd become so distant. I told her calmly, "I understand completely. You chose to keep someone in your life in a way I couldn't accept. That was your decision. This is mine." No arguing, no convincing, just reality. Over the next few days, her messages grew frantic. Missed calls stacked up. Texts arrived back to back, each more desperate than the last. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. Watching from a distance, I realized she was finally experiencing the result of dismissing, a boundary she'd laughed at, not enforced through anger or revenge, but through a quiet, consistent choice to value myself. In the weeks that followed, I met new people, revived old friendships, and poured energy into projects I'd been postponing. I didn't dwell on Emily or Ryan. I didn't seek payback. Life has a way of rebalancing itself when you stop engaging with what drains you. Somewhere along the way, I felt lighter, stronger, free from a connection that demanded constant compromise and offered little respect. A month later, Emily reached out again. Her message was softer this time. Vulnerable, almost pleading. But I wasn't the same man, the one who waited for her calls, who shaped his days around her moods, no longer existed. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Seeing her realize what she'd lost, understanding that I had moved on without her, carried more weight than any argument, any confrontation, any emotional appeal ever could. And for the first time in a long while, I felt completely at peace.